Okay. Hi, everyone. I was just busy watching that video. I don't know if you could see it or not. But welcome. So welcome, everyone. Welcome to our webinar about immersion. I'm glad that you're here. I'm excited that you're here. I've been excited all day, thinking we'd all be together. I see there's a bunch of you here. Mary. So hi, Mary and Pam, and Becky's here. Jennifer and Shar and Gabby and Ellen and Shari and Catherine and Dawn, Lauren and Carly. I'm glad that you guys are here. So if anyone else is coming, we're just gonna let them come, and we're going to see them when they get here. I played that little video because sometimes, you know, it takes a couple of minutes for everybody to get in the room, and I didn't want to start without anybody, but without further ado, we're just going to get right into it. Some of you I know that I know, and some of you I know that I don't know. And I thought what we would do is get to know each other kind of by getting into the work. And it's kind of what we do in the arena of equine-assisted learning. We just get in the arena and we start doing, and then we learn about each other by doing. So that was my thinking. My thinking is we'll learn about each other by doing. So I have the chat on, and I think I do. Let me check. Yeah. And so, oh, you're already chatting. You're saying things. I was watching the video too. Okay, good. I'm glad you got to see it. Excellent. Lauren was watching the video. Okay, great. Oh, somebody missed the video. No worry. You can check that out on YouTube. It's on there. It was actually a cool video, and a video that I'm going to eventually talk over. It was a video just of the horses out there in the field. They were playing and interacting with each other, and what I love about the video is how you can see I have a young stallion, and you can see how he was interacting with each of the different girls across the fence, and really how very careful they were about the fence and about not getting tangled up in it, but being very athletic and playing around. And if you guys were if you heard, I had a little 6-year-old friend who was narrating, and he was very excited about what was happening, and it was very exciting. So when you get the replay, maybe you'll get to watch the video for a little bit. And if not, you can just go to our In the Company of Horses YouTube page. I think it's In the Company of Horses. If not, it's Marianne Brewer's YouTube page, and you can see the video there. It's very cool. Cool. So let me see. Some people are having, okay, it looks like Pam is here. She's doing good. Becky missed the video. Lauren got it to work. I was watching the video too. Good, good, good. Now I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, and that is I am going to make the chat private because it can be really distracting, because you guys can probably see it. If it gets to be distracting, I'm going to make the chat private. So for now, I'm going to leave it there. But as we go, listen for any questions you might have, and maybe just jot them down and save them for a little bit, because I have a lot of information to cover, and maybe some of your questions will get answered in there. So there'll be a lot of information in this webinar today that may be helpful for you in your thinking about your horses and your horsemanship, whether you're a horse owner or a horse trainer, or a person who facilitates equine-assisted learning sessions, or somebody who works in the therapeutic riding world, or somebody who, you know, teaches other people, whatever it is. Even if you have your friends and neighbors come over and visit with you and your own horse, there's going to be tips and ideas in here for you too. So I trust that there'll be value in the webinar for you as we go. But we are here to talk about a course that I created, and I call it Immersion. It's a 3-month course, and it happens here in Pemberton at In the Company of Horses. The course goes for at least 5 days every week. Well, you're here 5 days every week, and you get 2 days off, and we'll work that out, that schedule, and it's at least 4 hours per day. And now I'm going to share with you what we'll be doing. And then we can get into the nuts and bolts of all of that at some point. And just so you know, everything that I'm going to talk with you about today, it can be a separate course that can be taught at your farm or somewhere else. It doesn't have to necessarily just be inside of this course, but this is a course that I put together because I find that people often need more support than they can get just working at home on their own and having, sporadic lessons. And so the support of, an immersion course can actually get the information not only into whatever you can grasp in an hour's lesson, but also into your just daily doing, so things become a habit. Your muscles and your body can create a new memory, because what I find is when I go and I help people, sometimes it takes 3 or 4 sessions before somebody's actually gotten the new habit into their body and is able to actually on a regular basis just go with a new behavior. So I don't have to always be reminding you, and you guys will know, those of you who are my students, sometimes when you're learning something new, it's just harder. So as many ways as we can get it in, we want to get it in. So in this immersion course, you'll be learning by doing. You'll be learning by having conversations about. You'll be learning from books, or you'll be fully expected to take notes. And then you'll definitely have time for problem solving and troubleshooting. So you'll be getting all this information into your body and your brain in a whole bunch of different ways. So it'll become you. It won't be something you do, it'll be who you be, if that makes sense. So the first category that I want to talk to you about is horse health and horse nutrition. And we here go about creating nutrition from the inside out, creating health from the inside out. So rather than trying to get on the other end and combat symptoms and diseases, we like to start in the beginning by creating a healthy immune system and continuing to empower the immune system. And the way that we do that is by using whole foods and real foods that are suitable for us to eat. So I sprout seeds, I sprout oats, whole oats, and a whole variety of seeds. I sprout alfalfa and clover and radish and celery seeds, and just an abundance of things. I have a whole system in my kitchen because it's been cold out, but when it's not cold out, the whole sprouting system happens outside in the barn. And that way, because instead of feeding a whole grain, we're actually feeding a little tiny plant. And when you can feed a little tiny plant, you're feeding something to your animal that is so full of nutrition. And I just only will use one example, and that is if you think about, it's coming up like this time of year. Well, we already have them up, but like when you think about how like the little crocuses or the daffodils come up through the snow in the spring of the year, those bulbs, they're big bulbs, but they push themselves up through the snow. They're very strong plants. Even if you think of an acorn, how an acorn is a seed of an oak tree, and we plant that acorn and it grows into a giant mighty oak tree. Well, that little sprout, that little seedling, is a mighty powerhouse of nutrition. And when we can feed those sprouts to our horses, they can assimilate the nutrients because the plant has the nutrients. They don't have to work to get it out. It's already available for them. And when I say assimilate, I mean use, assimilate. They can use the plant to, and it's not just the vitamins and minerals, but it's all the enzymes and coenzymes and all the things that are in whole nutrition. It's like eating the entire apple instead of eating the apple pie. If that makes any sense. We're also going to work on using herbs as supplements, and herbs are food. And as an example, a common herb is a dandelion. Some people call it a weed, but to eat a dandelion, there's a lot of nutritional value for the digestion system and the elimination system, in particular the urinary tract. Dandelion is really good for a lot of things. But so dandelion, you can have it fresh and whole, or you can have it dried, or you can have it in a powder, and it's still going to support the horse or the human. Humans can eat those as well, in a way that's going to support the animal. So we use herbs as supplement, but we use them because they're food. So we're always wanting to go from the aspect of the whole and the food. We're also going to talk about emergency and preventive homeopathic remedies. So in the case of an emergency, while we're waiting for the vet to come, we're going to really get grounded in stuff we can do. So not only homeopathics and homeopathic remedies, but also energy work and body work, and we're going to understand about moving blockages, and we're going to learn about the meridian points that are all over the horse's body that we can use to activate, you know, like colic points and things like that. We'll work on using the red light and understanding what photonic therapy is about. So there's a whole bunch of what we'll do in the world of prevention, but a bunch of stuff that we can do in case of emergencies too, while we're waiting for the vet to come. We're going to talk just about the basics of hoof care, and I'm not suggesting that we're going to at all replace your farrier. You're not going to leave with knowledge to be a farrier. You're just going to understand the basics of hoof care. And what I mean by that is being able to identify basic hoof distortions and problems that might arise, and be able to use a rasp and a hoof knife and just some basic tools to kind of help maintain the feet in between when your farrier comes, and maybe allow you to have maybe a different relationship with your farrier. Farriers might not be happy about my saying that, but I still believe they probably would prefer an informed customer to an uninformed customer. And then also I have this in horse health, but this is something that permeates every single thing that we do. It is observation. So observation is the key to seeing what's actually there. I call it eye training. This is eye training, and it's the key to seeing what exactly is happening, what exactly is there, what's going on, without necessarily interpreting. Interpretation will come later, but we use basic observation exercises and basic observation points in horse health, and in understanding horse behavior, and in horse training. And we use it in people training and watching people. We use it in the ideas of trying to see for imbalances in the horse, physically, mentally, emotionally. So we do a lot about that, because my experience is this actually started, we started doing observation in our arena of equine assisted learning and psychotherapy. So in the company of horses provides equine assisted learning and equine assisted psychotherapy experiences for humans. So I'm the equine specialist, and I partner with mental health professionals to provide psychotherapy services for people. And to date, now we're into 2016, but in 2015, when I did the numbers, we were just over 10,000 people who have come through our arena of equine assisted psychotherapy and learning. So that's a lot of people that we've spent basically observing. And one of the certain things that we found was common to all of those people, or most of those people, was people have a very hard time being able to see what's happening. People live in interpretation, and we do too. And no one's suggesting interpretation is wrong. All we're saying is distinct from what an observation is. An observation is something anyone could see. An interpretation has many different possible things that we could say about it. So in all things, we use this observation to really help us and make a difference. And we even use it back in horse health, like I was saying. You know, we're gonna start feeding our horses, you know, whole, real, living foods, and then all of a sudden we're gonna watch to see what happens, you know, and you know, we may notice all of a sudden their hair looks softer, or their hooves or our nails are stronger, you know, or our skin looks better, or their, whatever it is, their attitude is better. We're going to observe, compare, and remember. That's something you'll hear me say a lot. Observe what's happening now, compare it to what happened in the past, and remember for the future, because we want to know, we want to see our progress. We want to see if we're going in the correct direction, or if we're going in some other direction that we don't want to be going in. And then, of course, we'll change things, because that's the nature of it. If it's not working, we're going to change it. Okay, so yeah, so there'll always be exercises to further understanding observation. Cool. So the next thing we're working on, and these things, a lot of them will happen simultaneously, but I've put them in an order, and they're kind of in a bit of an order, because we kind of have to have a healthy horse, you know, but sometimes we see that our horse is not healthy because of their behavior. So our next section is called horse behavior. And what we'll do is just what that, if you happen to see the video, what we'll do is a lot of that. We'll actually get to see in real life how does a congruent herd of horses really interact with each other when they're not separated into individual paddocks, or you know, just separated. So you saw on, if you saw in the video, so I have 6 mares, and then I have a stallion and a gelding, and they can travel together all over my property. I have a track system that I created, and I created this track system in 2006. I went away to horsemanship school in 2005, and I went to the Pirelli School of Natural Horsemanship. I went down to Florida in January, and I spent a few months there in Florida. But when I got to Colorado, things were really different in Colorado. I went there in the spring and stayed there until the fall. And in Colorado, you know, in the West, let me just say, they do things very differently than they do here in the East. For one, in the East, we have what's called a fence-in law, meaning if you have livestock or animals, you need to put up a fence to keep them in. You're the one who gets in trouble if they get out in the street, or if they get into someone else's property and cause any trouble. But in the West, they have what's called a fence outlaw, meaning if you have a piece of property and you don't want animals on it, then you need to put up the fence. But it's free range country, not all over, but in Colorado, they have a fence outlaw. So it's interesting there, because you can see a little bit more, and you can see it here too, how horses will travel on paths, just like deer do. You can take a walk in the woods and see a deer path. So I started to see that in a really bigger way out there, because there are lots of wild animals, and they actually travel all on the same paths. And I noticed that the paths went to kind of precarious places. You know, they went on skinny ledges, and they went, you know, around places that I thought would have been better had they just gone, you know, down into the valley and gone around rather than going around these steep curves up on the hill where they could have fallen or whatever it was. And so I started to have a bigger appreciation for how horses have an innate and internal wisdom that I don't know that in the East here we believe or allow to happen. And I know lots of people will tell me, you know, that they have show horses and they can't get hurt, but lots of horses also cause all matter of trouble and get hurt because they aren't allowed to act like horses, meaning they aren't allowed to be included and incorporated in a herd because they'll get hurt. And my experience with that is that, you know, if we just put them together and keep them together in a big enough space where there's enough room to move, and we don't take them out and put them back and take them out and put them back and take them out and put them back. So every time we take them out and then put them back together, like the fireworks begin again, and then we take them out and the next day we put them back together and the fireworks begin again. Like if we can put them together in a big enough space where they can all get away and not get cornered and move, they're going to get things worked out pretty quickly. And that's what we get to see here on the track system. Like, how do they manage that? So the track system is something that can be implemented anywhere. I have 7 acres here, and I have 2 houses, a 100-foot barn, a big driveway. I have an acre of front lawn, and then I have room enough on this track system for all the rest of the horses. So that's you know. And the thing that's different now is the horses actually can go in and out of the creek. They can go up and down creek banks. Some of the banks are quite steep to go down and quite high to go up. And even my little, if you saw that little miniature pony on the video, even she goes way down in these banks and way up on the other side. And, you know, sometimes the water gets rushing through there, you know, when it rains and they manage, you know, and because of that, they're braver, they're more athletic, they're bigger problem solvers. They understand things like go around. You know, sometimes horses don't always understand go around. You know, they stand at one place and can't figure out how to get from here to there, instead of saying, well, if I go over there and go up over there and go back over there, I can actually go around this thing. So they become better problem solvers when they're allowed to stay in these natural environments. And that was one of the things that I saw, and I saw it in a natural environment. I didn't, no one had created it. And then happily I found that there's a whole, you know, system of that out in the world, the paddock paradise idea, and it makes a big difference with that, and so I'm just real happy about that, and I like to share that with people because it makes a huge difference. In this section on horse behavior, we get to really do see the nature of the horse's movement. What do they do all day? You know, what do they do all night? All interesting things. We also work on we get into these studies of emotional and social intelligence. And I know that these are, they sound like buzzwords, and they are because there were some nationwide best-selling books by Daniel Goleman called Social Intelligence and Emotional Intelligence. And they were written for the business world because having people who are emotionally fit as coworkers and bosses and collaborators and communicators and leaders produces more than having tyrant, dominant people who don't have any people skills or ability to collaborate with other people. So it's a big thing that's happening in the business world, is people are starting to get smart about their emotions so they can identify them and then act accordingly, not necessarily be sucked away by contagious emotions. I had a student today who has a lovely connection with her horse. And what's really interesting about it, I say they have a lovely connection. They're just so completely connected. But what happens is one of them gets worried and then the other one gets worried. One of them gets mad and the other one gets mad. Like, they're so connected. They do exactly the same thing. So inside of those relationships, if we can just help the human start to get really smart about what's actually happening and find out what's at the root of that, then when something happens with the horse, the human doesn't have to say, yeah, me too. The human can say, maybe I don't need to go there. And then the horse is like, what? You don't need to go there? Oh, I'd rather be where you are. And so that's emotional intelligence. And so we use our powers of observation again to see those things. And then we learn to properly identify them. And there's even, there's a emotional message charts where you can actually see the emotion and get ask some questions of the emotion and get the message behind it, and be able to maybe not have that become a pattern. So that's something that we're doing with the humans, and then the way it gets applied, and we actually get to check it out, is how is it going with our horse when we actually have this scenario that happens, and then we shift and we're different. What does my horse do? You know, so the horse is the proof. It's not like I'm going to say, no, 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 or yes, yes, yes. The horse is going to be the one that you see being different, which is the really cool thing, because the horses always have the answer. They're always going to be the ones that show us who we're being. The other piece of that is social intelligence. And in social intelligence, that's really about a collective knowing. And like I said, there's the two people in it. But when you see an entire herd or a group of people, there's a group conscience, a collective knowing. So it's a social order. And so when we're smart about our own emotions and we get a little bit of skill around managing groups of people and horses, and we start that just with ourselves and one other, we start to see that when we're out on the trail, we're the ones that can, our horse, us in combination with our horse, can be the ones that set the tone for the whole group. Now, we might be the ones setting the whole tone for the whole group right now, and that might or might not be a good thing. Or you might know who you don't want to ride with because they set the tone for the whole group, and maybe it doesn't go like you want it to go. So either way, we start to really understand social intelligence. And inside of that, we practice the principles of improvisation. And improvisation is when all you have is me and you right now, or me and the situation, or me and the horse, and you're in the moment, and all you're doing is forwarding the conversation, forwarding the conversation. We're not blocking it or shutting it down. We're forwarding the conversation and forwarding the conversation. And I didn't realize it, but when so we're advanced trained. We in the company of horses are advanced trained by EGALA, the Equine Assisted Growth and Learning Association. And that's a global organization that supports people who provide equine assisted learning and psychotherapy services for other people. And so in the advanced training, one of the things that we did was we practiced the principles of improv with our partners. And I realized that those are the skills that a true horse trainer has. They're always practicing the skills of improvisation, you know, because band members are always practicing improvisation if they're playing musical instruments together. I mean, there might be a song that they're playing, but there's timing and feel that's involved in all of that. Dancing is another place where we practice improv all the time. Again, you might know where the steps are going, but then there's a partner. And that's the key to improv, is there's a partner. There's someone else you're interacting with all the time. And it's about staying in the game and not shutting the game down, but staying in the game and following through. And so practicing improvisation, horses are so good at it. They're so fun. And we do that with people, and we have exercises that we do, and then we do it with the horses, and we get to stay in the game and continue to forward the conversation. And you're going to love what that does to the horses. They get such a want to, they get such a big yes. They get to become real partners in communication about what next? What are we doing next? What's the next thing we're going to do? They really want to. And then you'll even see, and the horses will show you this too, when you're saying no, no, no all the time, what you get is just this back and forth, you get like, you know, banging heads instead of a dance where we're going somewhere together, and it feels like, you know, we're actually going somewhere together. So it's really cool. It's very fun. Improvisation with horses is really cool, and I'm grateful that my gala training actually shared that with me. So that was pretty cool stuff. So inside of this too, we talk about so lots of people, and I'm not sure if any of you are here today who practice equine assisted learning or psychotherapy, or work in the realms of therapeutic riding, but one of those places that we'll also dive into are facilitation skills. And really that's how to observe the room, be able to influence the horses. And I say room because I always put it in terms of people, because I put it in terms of people because I spent a number of years at Landmark Education, and Landmark Education, in case you don't know, is a global education corporation, and the subject matter is people. And mostly what is practiced is and understood and learned and is what is common to all people. Like, no matter what language you speak, no matter where you come from on the planet, male or female, whatever your you know, your economic situation is, it doesn't matter. We have like there are things we have in common, like airplanes, right? Whether it's a fighter jet or a glider or a big giant cargo jet or a passenger airplane, there's certain things that all airplanes have in common. So it's like that. So in studying people like that, and in participating in leadership, long leadership courses and long team management courses and things like that, you learn to read a room and manage a room and see a room. So I think about that when I'm with the horses, and especially the herd. I want to look at the herd, and so I say read the room, but I mean read the pasture or the arena or the field or whatever we're in the moment, and watch all of it at the same time and be able to influence where I need to without disrupting the entire event, without saying stop everybody, you know, but where can I influence if I need to, and be like a fly on the wall, not have anyone except for the one I'm influencing actually know that happened. And I'm not suggesting there's not times when we just say time out, everybody time out, because there might be. So there's that. And then also the ideas of practicing improv and improvisational skills. That's another really cool way to help facilitate team inside of your facilitation team. Horses and humans, the equine specialist and mental health professional, or inside of therapeutic riding. If you've got a rider and you've got a horse and you've got a horse leader and you've got sidewalkers and you've got all that stuff going on, someone needs to be orchestrating all of that, and your skill that you will bring as somebody who can incorporate all of that and improvise in the moment just will be invaluable to anybody. And I thought of another place too where these skills would come in handy. You may be a teacher of horsemanship already. And maybe you're somebody who has, like I said earlier, maybe you're somebody who has your family come by because they want to ride your horse. You know, you're gonna probably, you have already skill in helping them, but some of these skills are going to help you even more, be able to see what's going on and help them have more fun and be safe, and have your horse really enjoy the experience of having your family come and visit them, even if carrots aren't involved. So yeah, so there's that. Let me just take a second to grab a drink because I feel like I'm losing my voice here. That's my tea that I love. We'll also have a whole section on teaching individuals and groups of people. So that will help you as a teacher when you're moving logically through steps of horsemanship or problem solving. And that's another whole section that we have is problem solving, both with horses and humans. Because usually, I mean, sometimes someone will call me because they're having trouble with their horse, and it really is the horse that's the problem. You know, seemingly the human is just, you know, their heart's in the right place. They're really working on their, you know, internal pictures and really sharing, you know, clear ideas with their horse, and, you know, really physically asking in the correct way, and something might be the horse. But that's the rare case. Mostly when someone needs help with their horse, what they're saying is, I need help because I can't figure out how to get along with my horse. And I get it. And the reason I get it is because, you know, horsemanship did not come naturally to me. It was something I really had to learn. It was a skill I really had to learn. I think sometimes when people are naturals at things, I think they don't know the struggle that one goes through when they have to learn things, like simple things, like my students, anybody who's here will know, moving feet forward instead of backwards. You know, I'm gonna let you guys say something if there's anything you want to say about any of that. You know, that's like one of those, that's just one of those things, you know, how hard it is to just, you know, just remember to move my feet backward or forward instead of backwards, or remember to breathe, or remember to release, or, wow, we just went through a big thing and now I'm standing here processing, and what I really need to be doing is rubbing and rubbing and rubbing my horse. So sometimes the problems are with the horses, but lots of times they're with the people. And so how do you help the person? You know, and I don't know about you guys, but, you know, sometimes it can be really hard. And I personally am somebody who, I do not give my learning over to just anyone. I have been in so many horsemanship workshops over the years. You know, I found, I got my first horse in 1992, and it was in 1996 that I went to Equitana, USA, and I found natural horsemanship. And that was in Louisville, Kentucky. You know, it was one of those giant trade shows. And, you know, it is, you come home from those trade shows and you have all this information, because that's what I went for. I went for information, and I found a magazine, and I read it front to back, and it said everything I wanted from my horse and from my relationship with my horse. And I turned over the back cover, and it turned out there was a workshop, and it was coming right to Pennsylvania. And I called up and I got in, and it was like amazing because there was like a cancellation that day. It was so cool. And that was when I found Pirelli Natural Horsemanship, and it was Pat who was teaching. And, you know, he said to us that day, he said, that day, it was a few days, but I don't know, it was a blur, because I never learned so much ever. Like I never, you know, just that whole idea of, you know, when he said to us, one of the first things he said to us, you know, is that your horse is a prey animal and you're a predator. And I thought right away when he said that, I was like, what? I'm a predator? Really? But it all got so clear, because that's exactly how my horse acted. She acted, I mean, I loved her, but she acted like I was going to have her for lunch. And, you know, so from then, you know, I was totally skeptical going there, because I had gone to be with, you know, like John Lyons, and I had gone to all the local people, and I had gone to, Linda Tellington Jones, and I'd gone all over, and everybody's got something they want to sell you, and their own stuff. You need this special rope or this special stick, or or you have to do it 4,000 times. A habit takes 4,000 repetitions, or a behavior takes 4,000 repetitions to become a habit. And I was like, oh wow, that sounds really, really boring. I couldn't even wrap my head around 4,000 times. That just sounded like it took forever. And then the other, I'd go to someplace else and they were great, but I always had to have a second person. I had to have, it was essentially like walk your horse on cross ties. You're on one side and they're on the other. Well, that was great, except I didn't have a second person, and so, so I kept searching and kept searching. And, at this workshop with Pat, I wasn't buying anything. I went there saying, show me what you got, because, I'm skeptical. And he showed me one thing. The first day, in fact, the only thing he said to me, I think the first day, there was lots of people in this workshop. He showed me some way to keep my horse, 12 feet behind me. I mean, before that, my horse was always on top of me. I'm standing in the arena with my helmet on because my horse was always on top of me. I didn't think I was going to live through the experience of having her. And I thought, well, wow, that was something real. That didn't take 4,000 times. That took like once. And I thought, well, that was, what else do you got? What else can you show me? And one of the things he said was, he said, I know a lot of people who take a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and then they leave some of that out and they leave some of this out. And what they've got is a bunch of nothing. They put all this stuff together, but they don't have a complete package. And he said, you don't have to study my program. Study any program you want, but study it from the beginning to the end and get through it. And then you'll have a complete understanding of a system. And then you'll have a place from which to think. So I thought, that's a good point. And that's what I did. And so I completed that study in 2005. It took me 10 years to get through that study. And it was a struggle. And, in the beginning, there was a book, and then my friend found these there ended up being some videotapes, and I think they were even in black and white, And then eventually, there was DVDs and there were tour stops and there was, support, which was great. But boy, I just felt like forever it was just me and that book and my horse, and we struggled. But there's value in the struggle. And I think that people who aren't naturals at things and have to go through the struggle of learning it and problem solving and figuring it out, I think somehow can be better teachers. So if you're in that place, a place where you're struggling, just know that you will learn it in a way that you won't learn something that comes really easy to you. If it comes really easy to you, you won't learn it the same. So we're in good hands, I think, about that. All right, cool. So onward to our next wait, oh, hold on, there's questions. Let me see, there's a question right here, and that this actually is perfect. Cherie and Bryn. Cherie and Bryn says, has there ever been a case where you had your students unlearn certain second nature things about horsemanship? If so, what would be the number one thing unlearned? Yes. And I would say the biggest thing would be the constant moving backwards with feet. So oftentimes when people call me, they're calling me because they're not feeling safe. And if they're not feeling safe, likely their horse is invading their space. They're not able to claim the space around them. They're not able to have the horse be over there and me be over here. And it's exactly what I experienced in the story I just told you. This horse was always on top of me. I didn't feel safe. I always had my helmet on, even walking from the barn to the pasture, And so I see this in people all the time. I see people who move backwards away from their horses And what that does is it creates almost a vacuum or a suction where they're bringing the horse with them, because typically when they're backing away, they're afraid, so their body language has a posture that's moving them away from the horse or backwards. And naturally what that causes is for the horse to come with you. It's called draw. You're creating draw, which is useful and we want, but we don't want it so much that the horse is standing on top of us. What we also need to do is have drive. We have to be able to move the horse back away from us, have our body language move forward, and be able to project outside of our physical space, kind of like a bubble in that space, or a, you know, something big in that space that you can't come through. And that's a thing that's hard for people. I'll bet we've got half a dozen people right here on the webinar who that happens to on a regular basis. So that was a super question, Cherie and Bryn, and I trust that you know, if that's a thing that's happening for you or anybody, that you'll see it and recognize it and you'll know it. And that's what I recommend, is that you find a way to create space between you and the other thing. And sometimes that looks like you need to put a physical thing in between you and the thing. And I'm only saying you and the horse. And I'm only saying put a physical thing there because you may not be able to actually physically see it. Like these students that are consistently walking backwards away from their horse and then subsequently drawing the horse in with them, they don't even know they're doing it. It's so unconscious. It's such a thing that is so ingrained. They don't even know they're doing it. I'll say now, be careful, your feet are moving backwards again. And people will say, what? No, they're not. And, you know, I mean, if I were videotaping, you would see that your feet are moving backwards again. So that's a really super common thing. Yeah, another thing would be always being engaged. And what I mean is let's just say we're walking from place to place, and we just want to walk together. We're just going together. And people are staring at their horse, and or if you've got any natural horsemanship training, I see people all the time, they're swinging their ropes all the time, or they're always leading. And even in lunging, you'll see that happen. You'll see when people who are lunging, they're always leading and clucking and kissing and asking the horse to go, even though the horse is already doing the thing. So they're always physically engaging with the horse, where the horse is just doing what it's doing. Let's just let it be. Let's just take the pressure off and allow it to maintain gait and maintain direction and take the responsibility of doing the thing that we've asked it to do. I see that people don't allow the horses just to take the responsibility that we've given to them, because we haven't given it to them. We tell them, here's the responsibility, but then we say, now keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Well, that's not giving them the responsibility. That's called nagging. And that's a really super hard one for people to break, a really super hard habit for people to break, especially if you have a horse who's got way more whoa or is very slow than go. If you have a fast horse, you might always be taking all the slack out of the line or holding back or pulling. In which case, I'm always saying, you know, now give them the line back, release your reins, rub and release. And it's hard for people to do that, because, and this goes back to the piece of emotional intelligence, where if we really were to look at it and take an honest look at it, we're either frustrated because the horse won't go, which is an elevated level of probably disappointment, because we expected it to go when we really didn't. It really wasn't going to go anyway. We know this from history. Or some level of fear because we're afraid to let go because the horse is going to take off. And again, that's another different emotion, which is an elevated emotion as well. So if we can address those emotions before they get elevated, sometimes we can then plug it into these scenarios, these habits and behaviors, and they can go away. But that's again, that's putting that piece of intelligence into the emotions, putting that piece of learning and awareness into what's already underneath all of it. So I hope that, yes, Lauren, walking backwards. Yes, that's right. So, so Cherie, I hope that answers your question. Cherie and Bryn, I hope that answers your question. And if anybody else has a question, feel free to type it there in the chat. We're going to move on to what we're going to do in horse training. So we're finally getting to training the horses. You know, so far we've been doing a lot of talking about creating health and managing health and observing and seeing what we observe and working on ourselves and working on our own skills, you know, as far as being a social being. But now we're going to talk to the nuts and bolts of horse training, which we are getting to, and that is the physical fitness for the horses, strengthening exercise, balancing exercises, flexibility exercises, you know, okay, great, Sheree, thank you. Yes, it does. Thanks for your answer. Excellent. We're going to, gymnastics, essentially gymnastics. But again, we have to use our skills of observation so we can see what gymnastics exercises does each horse need, because they won't all need every gymnastic exercise. They're only going to need the ones that are going to help them to be stronger, fitter, healthier horses longer into their lives, and, you know, be suitable for the tasks set before them, or even just so they can be healthy, you know, longer. So there's that. And then, you know, the rider is not going to be exempt from this. And you'll ask anybody who's ever been in a workshop with me, there are balancing exercises or flexibility exercises, or I might have you jumping rope. You know, I mean, how can we expect our horses to be these happy athletes if we're not? And that's not to say that you're going to come every day and do 15 minutes of jump rope. That's not the case at all. But you'll start to see where are the places that you need to put in things for yourself. And that's not something I'm going to tell you. These will be self-reflection notes and things that you'll keep on your own, you know. And I notice it all the time. If I'm, you know, especially in the winter, right? You know, I've got all these clothes on. Not that we've needed too many layered days this winter here in New Jersey. It's been quite lovely. But, you know, if I'm in boots and all that stuff and I'm trying to move around and I'm trying to be graceful and be a dancer with my horse and be athletic, and, you know, it's hard to do that. So, you know, I need to up my game a little bit. I need to up my level of air that I have so I can actually move with my horse in a way that's going to inspire them to move that way. You know, I want to, you know what Gandhi says, I want to be the change that I want to see in them. So I need to embody it. I need to emulate that. I need to show them what it is that I want. And that's, you know, so that's a place where we have to look in the mirror and say, so what do I need to do over here today? And I don't mean nitpick, right? I'm not saying that. I mean, I'm saying, let's just take an honest look at it and just make choices. And so lots of times, you know, horses have been incentive for people to reach for an apple instead of a potato chip, you know, or a cookie. So, I mean, there can be all matter of reasons why we make one little change in each moment we're choosing that add up to big changes. And that's the way it is with horses too. It's the way it is with balancing and strengthening and gymnastics exercises. We can't get it all done in one day. We can't go to the gym and lift weights today and be fit for the rest of our lives. It's what we do every single day. It's just like, it's like feeding those sprouts, right? It's cumulative. I'm going to feed sprouts today, and then sprouts again tomorrow, and sprouts again on Friday, and some more sprouts on the weekend. And, you know, and as we go, wow, they've been eating sprouts now every day for 2 weeks. Now I'm starting to see that there's a little bit something. When they're eating sprouts for a whole year, then we're going to see a measure of health that maybe we hadn't seen in the past. So all these things are cumulative. We don't need to take them all today. And that's why, you you know, this course is a 3-month immersion course, but my hope is that you're going to really start to make changes for your life that make life changes. And not just for you, but for everyone you have an influence over, you know, including your horses, your family, and of course yourself. So inside of who we are about what we do is we work here at In the Company of Horses inside of positive reinforcement training. And what I mean by that is when, just have another sip while I'm at it here. So if you ask your horse to do a thing, we're going to, you know, have a clear picture of what we want. We're going to have our clear picture in our mind and in our body. We're going to feel it, and we're going to get it from us out to our horse, and we'll practice that. If that sounds different or new to you, we're going to practice clarifying pictures and getting it from us to the horse. And then we're going to support that idea however we need to. And then if the horse does the thing that we want them to do, whatever it is, they get the goodie, whatever the goodie is. That could be a scratch, a rub, a good boy, a piece of carrot, whatever it is. If they don't do the thing that we want them to do, or they do something that we don't want them to do, we're just going to ignore that. And we're going to continue creating the picture that we want. We're going to continue creating the positive forward thing that we want. Does that make sense? So we're going to keep creating the positive thing we want. We're not going to add anything negative if they don't do the thing we want. We're only going to add positive when they do the positive thing. Okay? We'll also, I use treats, I use food, and I will teach you, and I am very clear about how we have boundaries around that. There's no mugging, there's no one rooting through pockets, there's no one focused only on the treats. It just doesn't happen that way. They know that there's a price for the thing that we're using. There's a price. It's not free. In fact, it's mine. And I will happily share it with you. However, if you steal it from me, you know, that doesn't work that way. You can't steal it from me. So there's a whole thing about having clear boundaries around using food, and there's just a clear way to go about it. And there's, you know, I do this with all of my 6 mares. I do it with my gelding, and I do it with my stallion, and I don't have anybody who bites me. You know, they're not biting people, or it doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen because it's done appropriately. I know lots of people who use food with horses, and then they'll feed them, and then they'll do that backing away thing. And then all of a sudden they're sucking the horse in with them. And before you know it, the horse is all in their pockets and all over the place. And then it becomes a problem. So I'm a big fan of using treats, but I'm also a big fan of having very clear boundaries about me. First of all, being a fragile human, you know, if there's no me, what's going to happen to them? You know, so I tell them that in plain English, and I tell you, they know. You know, I started to play, because in my arena of equine assisted learning at work, we sometimes use food. And if I'm going to have my horses in an arena with people who are, you know, from all different walks of life, but they're not horse people, and food is going to be present, I need to know how they're going to act. So I set up an entire training program around food. And it's a missing if you're not doing that, and you're keeping your horses. Now, sometimes we board our horses somewhere else, and we're not the ones feeding them, so it's a missed opportunity. But if you live with your horses and you're not using food as a training tool, it's a huge missed opportunity, because what do your horses do all day? They eat. So let's use what they want, what the thing is that they naturally do, and use it for good, because it's a value. It's a big, huge value. So we play with that. We'll also work on groundwork with horses. So groundwork can be anything from standing still to cantering next to our horses. It can be close up. It can be on a long line. We can have it on a long lunge line. And then there'll be in-hand work where we have actually 2 reins on a horse, where we actually either long lines like driving lines, or close-up reins where we do more intimate, close things with horses. The lunging happens both without a rider and with a rider, for the purposes of asking the horse to move in the postures that we've created through our balancing and strengthening and gymnastic exercises on the ground. So it's not for the purposes of expelling extra energy. We want that energy. We want to harness it. We want to keep it. That's not to say that if a horse really is doing airs above the ground, or, well, unless we want that, you know, if a horse feels dangerous and needs to move away, certainly we can allow it to move away, but right away we're going to say, hey, come on back down and let's get back in this exercise, because we're doing something here. Come with me and focus, you know, come back, because we're here and we're here together. Well done. Thank you. Come on back. So that's how that will go. And then liberty. We work extensively with horses at liberty. That means with no ropes at all. No ropes, no halters, no lead ropes, no nothing. We do that in a small space. We do it in a round pen, and we do it in a big, giant, large field. It's true liberty. It actually is liberty. The horse could leave if they want to. This is not round penning techniques. The horses are not running around in circles in a round pen. It's just a smaller space. So we have a round space, and we have kind of a long space, and then we have a big, giant 2-acre field. And we play at liberty with all the horses in all of those spaces. And it's fun. It's really, really fun stuff. And not only that, but it's like the test. You get to actually really see, what have you built? Can you really ask your horse for something? Like when the pressure comes up, and when you want something that might be a little bit hard or a little bit uncomfortable, and you're at liberty and you're asking your horse to stay here and try, what does your horse do? It's cool when they stay, and they do. You know, they want to. It's very, very cool. And if they don't want to, then it's up to me to figure out, why not? Who am I been being that my horse doesn't want to stay here? And I'm going to fix it, because I want my horse to stay here. And it doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to put them back online. I mean, I might, and it might be different online, but that's where, you know, one of the really big things that we learn, and we, you know, but in this immersion course, because we're immersed in this, right, every single day, is we learn to be problem solvers. We learn how to figure stuff out. We learn to say, you know what, this is not working. I need to do something different. How can I do this differently? What's next? What can happen next? And we just, you know, being a problem solver, that's improv, right? You've got nothing different, or you don't even have all you need, but we're going to figure our way through this just by saying yes, and then let's see what's next. Yes, and what do you have to offer? And yes, and what can happen next? It's cool. It's cool stuff. Riding horses, we're going to do that too. We're going to ride in the natural horsemanship world what's called freestyle, and you learn that way first. And oftentimes that comes through bareback, but that's not the most important thing. I encourage bareback riding, because a rider can really learn to have an independent seat, because they're not balancing on stirrups. So bareback riding without stirrups, or bareback pad riding with no, you know, with nothing that's going to keep you on except you and your seat and your relationship. So there's that. Riding with either one or no reins, riding with sticks, one or two, all in a safe, logical, sequential order in a controlled environment, you know, so I'm not sending you out and say, go right off into the sunset. Nothing like that's happening. And then, you know, the value in all of that is for the rider and the horse is that, you know, both the rider and the horse become braver and become more problem solvers. They learn to trust each other more and become more partner-like. And the horse really does learn to take on the responsibility of being a partner in all of that. People who ride with nothing are much kinder to their horses than people who ride with everything, because you have to be. So there's that. Cool. Just checking in to see if there's any more questions. And if there is, you can feel free to jump in at any time if you have any questions about any of this stuff. I don't see any more questions. Walking backwards, yes, yes it does. Thank you for that. Good, very good. Oh, good. Hit the play button. That's excellent. Okay, Becky, don't worry if you missed the video. You can see it on YouTube if I didn't already tell you that. You can just check on our In the Company of Horses YouTube channel and you can just watch that video. It's the video of Sterling and Valentine. I think that's what it says. So no worries about any of that. We also, we ride horses freestyle, but we also ride them in a refined way. We ride them with two reins with the purpose of riding them their full and total complete bodies. And after you've ridden them with nothing, this work can be easier or it can be harder. Depending on the horse, because it's something the horse needs to learn too. Because if a horse is used to being ridden in a very confined way and then we take everything off and now they're free to move, they may be really confused. So there's a really big place here of learning for the horse and the human, depending on where you're coming from, what is your history, and where are you going. So when we learn to ride in a refined way, it's actually the last thing that we do. We certainly don't start on top and ask you to put your heels down and put your hands down and post and all of those things. And then from that riding, we take it to the trails. On the trails, this is where like the rubber meets the road, like all that stuff that we've learned, we put together out in the world. And we start to put together, those ideas of, being emotionally intelligent and creating that in a social way. Understanding the geometry of the herd movement together on the purposes of trail riding. We go at all gaits on the trail, including the gallop, which is not something that a lot of people get to do. And that's not to say that if your riding skills aren't in that place, that in 3 months you're going to be able to go out on the trail and gallop with your horse. If that's not possible, then that's not possible. But for those people who are ready to move through these ideas, we're going to go as far as we can. And that's it's really what I want to say about the course is here's a question. Yes. Are you flexible with scheduling? Thank you. This is Shar. And is your vision something like a working student might be? Maybe, because there certainly will be, there's that whole piece of feeding and managing horses and caring for them. So there's definitely that. And there's no question. I mean, there's, the program has an application. And it has an application, and there's questions on the application like, why do you want to do this? Let me read you some of the questions. Why do you want to participate in immersion within the Company of Horses? So there's lots of places in the world where you can go for extended periods of study. If you want to do it here, why? And what are your life goals, like outside of horses or inside of horses? Like, what's your long picture? What's your long game? What does your vision look like? And I don't care if it's, I want to teach my horse to lay down and I want to lay in the field with it all summer long, or I want to ride bareback and bridleless on the beach, or I want to teach globally, or whatever it is. I want to compete in high level. I don't care what your what your long-term goal is. I just want to know so I get to know you. What's your strong suit? What are you extremely good at? Are you a really super organized person? Are you really good at math? Maybe you're really good at photography. Maybe you're a super brave person. I don't know. What is your strong suit? Like, what do you excel at in the world? Because that's going to be valuable. It's going to be applicable to horses. If you're an excellent writer, that's going to matter somewhere in there. So I promise you. So those are the things I want to know. What are your hobbies outside of horses? I want to know the name of the last book that you read. I just want to know, what do you read? And what kind of schooling have you had? Do you have a master's degree in something, or are you in high school? And again, none of it matters to me. I just want to know who you are. I want to know other things about you too. What is your horse experience? How long have you waited with a sick animal for the vet to come? Have you ever waited all night? Have you slept in the barn waiting all night long up? I mean, I know a lot of you probably have, but I want to know what that is. And do you have any experience with any of the things that I've mentioned? Like, are you a teacher? Are you a teacher of horsemanship? Do you work in equine assisted learning or psychotherapy? Do you know anything of Daniel Goleman's work? Have you read his book? Yeah. And, so there's lots and lots of stuff. I want to know, who are some of your horsemanship heroes, and who are people you admire that have nothing to do with horses? And I want you to share profound life lessons that you've learned from horses. So, like, I want to know, who you are. And so, like I said in the beginning of the webinar, this course is put together as a 3-month study for the purposes of immersion, right? You can see there's a lot to it. And it can take many years of study in little tiny bits to get it all, and it's possible to get it all. And even if you put yourself in immersion, it's still going to take years for it to come to fruition. But I just want to encourage you. Let me just tell you this. Remember, I told you I went away to horsemanship school. That was in 2000 for the year of 2005. So I'm a mother of 3 sons, and this was 11 years ago. And so my sons are grown now, and they were mostly grown then, but I was a business owner. I owned a farm and horses, and I have a compound that I live on, and I have people here that count on me, as the farm owner, and not married. And so I had to work things out in my life for me to go away and really fulfill a dream of going away to horsemanship school. So I changed my whole entire life. I had a business, and I sold parts of that, and I gave parts of that away, and I refinanced my house, and I rented it. And, there were all these key people and players in place that they all had to come together for me to be able to go. I even threw myself a big giant going away party, because I knew this was no small thing, that a person in my situation was really going to change their entire life and really go away to school. So, and I had a 2-horse, just my little gray 2-horse trailer, and my horse hated trailering. And off we went, and we just kept putting one foot in front of the other and doing what there was to do until we completed our program. And we learned a lot of things. It was a whole year away. And then when I came home, then I needed to, again, reinvent my life, because I'd been away for a whole year. I needed these people out of my house, and I needed to re-inhabit my life, when you're away that long. And I was single-minded. I had a single-minded focus. It was horses only. And I did need to broaden out my ideas, and I needed to think about the bigger picture. I needed to reconnect with my life and my family and relationships and create new ones, because my business relationships were gone. I wasn't doing that anymore. And it took something. And I just know that people are resourceful, and they find the time and the money for the things that they want. And And I just encourage you, if this is something that calls to you, you know, find out what it's going to take. The way that it's set up is there are 3 consecutive months. So the first time we're offering this is going to be March, April, and May. March 1st to the last day of May. Just calendar months, makes it easy that way. And the cost is $1,000 per month. So it's $3,000 for all of the stuff that I told you. And that's here in Pemberton. And then if you're coming from far away, I never did anybody tell me where they were from? I wasn't able to see on the chat if anybody said, if they're from anywhere other than somewhere local. If you're from anywhere other than local, just let me know on the chat, because I'm curious about that. Because there's an opportunity, if you needed to actually live here on the farm, to do that too. In your first immersion course, in your first 3-month course, you cannot bring your own horse. And I know you want to, and I know people want to do that. And the reason for that is because you will learn better with my horses. And then you can take that back home and you can teach your horses. But you will learn better with horses that are not going to be so overly challenging. So that's why in subsequent immersion courses, you can bring your horse, because by that time you're going to have a bit of a foundation and you're going to have some problem solving skills. And then we can work on those things together in an immersed way. And then you'll be able to bring your horse along through the program. So yes, in the future that can happen, but not right now. And like I said, this is the first time I'm going to offer this course, is March, April, and May. And then there will be a next module, which will be June, July, and August, the summer module. And then there'll be September, October, and November. And then we'll just take December, January, and February off. Okay, so there'll be 3 opportunities this year. And there's only 2 people able to participate at one time, especially in this first module. So I'm very clear about how it's going to go. And so for this first module, only 4 people in this first opportunity who get selected. So if I get half a dozen applications, there's only going to be 2 people that get selected. But those 2 people, instead of paying the $3,000, they'll be able to participate for $2,500. So it'll be a $500 discount. And that's simply going to be because you're going to be part of a test group, so to speak, in that, you know, we'll be continuing to write a curricula for people in the future. So if you're still here and you heard that, then you'll have that opportunity to participate if that's something that calls to you. And then the other thing that I want you to know about all of this is like I said in the beginning, everything you heard today in this immersion course is something that can be taught in weekend and 3-day workshops. You know, we'll pick like one topic and we'll focus on that. You know, we can do it here, or we can do it at your farm, or wherever you want to go, and it can be done anywhere in the world. So those things can all be broken down into little workshops and that kind of, you know, thing. So you know, if that's something that calls to you, just let me know about that. You can just send me an email. On my website, on inthecompanyofhorses.com, right on the horsemanship page, there's a link to Immersion, and you'll get this document that I've been reading from here. You will get that. You can go and you can download it. It's a PDF, and in the PDF, you'll also see that this is where the whole application is. And what you'll do is, right now, it's just in this PDF version. It's nothing you can interact with. So I suggest you just copy it and then paste it in an email, and then you can answer the questions right in an email, and then send me an email, and then I'll get back to you, and we'll chat about what there is to do next. And by the same token, if you just want to send me an email and let me know, you know, what's happening, you know, if you'd like to participate in any of these things or create a future in any way, that would be lovely. So I'm just going to check in and see if we've got any more questions. We've got, I think I'm going the correct way. Yeah, it starts with that way. Okay, good. Doesn't look like we have too many more questions. Jennifer says, this has been wonderful. Unfortunately, due to a 5-year-old having a meltdown, I have to go. Thank you, Jennifer. I'm glad that you are here. Your 5-year-old is probably ready to go to bed. It's almost 8:30. Shar, I hope that answered your question. So kind of like a working student, but more learning than working, but lots of work too. Did I say that your days will be no less than 4 hours per day, and the schedule is very flexible. I had a gal the other day say, you know, I only work in the mornings. Could they be 4 afternoon hours? And sure, they can be 4 afternoon hours. That'd be something that we can work out together. It's fine with me. You know, we'll just work that out. And someone else asked me, oh, that was about this, was there a place to stay? And then about the horses, that was the other thing. Yeah, so I hope that answers your question, Shar. I have 2 computers, so I keep going to the wrong one here. Okay, so it doesn't look like anybody else has any more questions. Let me see who's still in the room. All right, we have Mary in the room, and Pam, and Becky, and Jennifer, and Shar, and Ellen, and Lauren, and Catherine, and Cherie, and Bryn, and Margaret. All right, you guys, if there's no more questions, then just give you another second, because sometimes there's a bit of a delay, and I don't want to, hello, Pam. I don't want to cut you off if you have any more questions. Okay, I'm not sure if there's a delay. I know that my computer is hardwired, and sometimes when there's a wireless, there's a little more of a delay. So if you have any questions, you can just send me an email, info@inthecompanyofhorses.com, and I'm happy to answer them for you. And if you want to see that video, just check out our YouTube channel, inthecompanyofhorses.com, and make sure if you're not on our mailing list that you get on our mailing list. You can go right to the website, inthecompanyofhorses.com. On every page you can sign up for the website or for our email notices, and that way we'll keep you posted as to what we're doing and who's coming, who we're hosting, where it's at, what's happening. And so it looks like it's 8:24, and I'm going to say goodnight to you all. And thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. I so appreciate your time. I don't take it lightly that you've given me all of this time tonight. So thank you and good night. And may the horse be with you, from somebody who just saw Star Wars. Bye now.